All right, good morning. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the session. This session is on attracting talent. And so in just a moment, I'm going to ask you, what are you looking to get out of this session? But I'll tell you what, if you're in the right place, if you're a business owner, business leader who is involved in any of the recruiting practices and hiring practices for your business. Now, in addition to that, you may find that you have hiring practices or recruiting practices that are working well for you. Great. Hopefully, my goal for you today is to be able to take away a few tips, techniques, tricks, and different ways of thinking about your hiring strategy so that you can be drawing in the talent that you're looking for to raise the performance and increase the business results for your business. Sound like a plan? Everyone's in the right place? Awesome. Well, I'm Shelli Hendricks. I'm pleased to meet you. I am a professional certified coach with 20 years experience working with business leaders in a number of different businesses. High tech, I spent really 20 years in high tech in Silicon Valley working with businesses there. In addition to other industries, some retail, oil and gas. Interesting combination, I realize that. But in addition to that, I'm a master scuba diver trainer in Northern California. I've been diving in Northern California waters, mostly Monterey, for about 7 years. Yes, Burr is correct. Dry suit diving. And this is my 5th DEMA show. So I'm excited to be here for the 5th time. This is my first time as a speaker here. And really that came about because the more I came to the show and talked to dive shop owners and business owners, I learned that there's a lot of what I did in corporate America that really translates well for business owners in the dive industry as well. So my goal is to share some of that with you, and hopefully you can take away some nuggets of truth, some interesting things, and raise the performance for your business. Sound like a plan? Now I'm curious, how many of you were at the DEMA member update this morning? Okay, the technology that we used, the texting, I was pleased to see that worked, and Tom had that in his presentation because we'll be using some of that technology this morning as well. And for the rest of you, I have instructions on how you can also participate. All right? So let's get started a little bit with a business case of why talent matters. Any thoughts on that? Why does talent matter to you? It makes money? Absolutely. The more talent, the more money, right? What else? That's right. If the talent in your shop or in your location is not good, people may not have a positive experience and may not want to come back and repeat that experience. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on talent? Why does talent matter? What's that? Achieve goals. Absolutely. Is the talent aligned with the goals of the business? Absolutely. And for everything we do, it comes back to what is your business strategy, right? How does your business strategy translate into what your staff does on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, monthly basis, etc. So some of the research shows that higher quality recruitment actually, this is one of the benefits. The better talent you have in the shop, the great, strong, competent people you have in your business, you're going to continue to attract and recruit that same level of competency in the people that you draw to the business, right? People come in and visit. They want to be a part of your team, okay? In addition to that, when you have strong people working for you, they want to stay. They want to be a part of it. It's fun to be part of a winning team, isn't it? We all like to win. And so people who come in and have great experiences with your shop, with your staff, with your people, they want to stay and they want to continue to be a part of that. And if you create a path for them to continue growing their skills, their capability, their career, they will want to stay and continue playing with you. There's also some research that very closely ties employee engagement, in other words, how satisfied your employees are, with customer satisfaction, for exactly what was said by Sandy over here, that when your employees are happy, well, in some circles we say when mama's happy, everyone's happy, right? Well, the same is true with your employees. When your employees are happy, your customers have a better chance of having a positive experience, and that's what we want. That's what creates the repeat customer. And you really create more of a Dive community in that regard, don't you? Awesome. All right. So consequently, right, the more you have happy employees, engaged employees, productive employees, the more you have satisfied customers, repeat customers, it's going to have a positive impact on your bottom line. And that's what all the research shows globally and across industries. Okay? A little bit of background for you. And of course, increasing the bottom line, we all want that, don't we? That's why we're here, partly. Awesome. Well, in talking to Dive businesses around the world, I've done a little bit of work to develop some retention strategies for Dive shops, as well as employee engagement strategies. How do we create curriculum and things like that that help people progress in their career within the Dive industry? And so I've developed this. And by the way, there's a handout you can download from the app, and I'll give you the code for that. That's DSS16. And this image is in there. So I've developed this model as the 7 keys for unlocking talent. And we're going to focus today specifically on the top module, which is about attracting talent. So when you think about attracting talent, these are some of the conversations that we'll have today. Targeting specific people in your recruitment efforts. What type of people are you looking for? The subtitle was, you still haven't found what you're looking for? Well, what are you looking for? Right? Are you really crystal clear on what type of people you are looking for to join your business? What are their skills? What are their values? What do they bring to the table? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. What are those qualifications that really matter to you, that really matter to your business, that make an impact for you? So I'll preload this by saying, is it skills? Is it attributes? Is it values? Is it their behaviors? All of those are valuable, and we want all of those. But which ones matter most in your recruiting practices? We'll also talk a little bit about cultural fit of candidates that you're interviewing. What is it? I'm sorry, get out of your way here. Why does cultural fit matter? Yeah, it goes back to, if the person is a cultural fit for your business, do you guys know, what do we mean by cultural fit, first of all? Yeah.
Do they have things in common with each other and with the industry?
Do they have things in common with you and others in your shop, or in your team? Excuse me. I realize that we don't just have shops in here. We may have other business owners as well. Yeah. Do they have something in common with you? Or do they enjoy the Dive industry? Do they enjoy being around people who enjoy the Dive industry? Awesome. Well, we'll drill into that a little bit more as well, and sort of some of the do's and don'ts and pitfalls if you don't connect with people who are a cultural fit, some of the ramifications of that. And then lastly, we'll talk a little bit about metrics, and how do you make sure that your recruiting efforts are aligned to that business strategy that we talked about earlier. Right? Making sure that you're measuring the right things so that you're getting the right results that you're looking for. Okay? So these are our objectives for today. Does this sound like a good use of your time? Awesome. Great. Well, I want this to be interactive. And so some of you may have been familiar with this technology called Poll Everywhere. This is the audience engagement part of the session. I'd like to invite you to go ahead and pull out your cell phone, if you have it, or your tablet, or your device. This is a BYO device environment. On your phone or on your device, please go ahead and send a text message with this code right here, the Shelli, Hendri, 455. Send that message to 22333. If you were in the session earlier, it's the same address. Okay? Here's another way of looking at it. Actually, that's when we get into it, we'll do that. So I'll give you a chance. Go ahead and send that text message, if you would, right now. And this will allow you to participate in some dialogue. No, just the two. So if you're using the text feature, you can use the one on the right, the example on the right-hand side. So you're just sending a text message to 22333. If you're using a web browser, you can use the one on the left. Okay, it just gives you a couple of options. Okay. 22333. Yes, that's the 2 address. Yes, I realize it seems like too few numbers. Yeah, instead of DEMA.org, you're using this code. Yes. Okay, I'll give you a second to go ahead and do that, and you should get a text back. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and this will allow you to participate, and we'll see some of the results that will drive the dialogue as well. Okay? How are we doing? Did it work for you? Okay. 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 If you don't have a device or if you don't have access to do so, I'd still invite conversation. Let's still have a discussion, okay? And we'll contribute in that. Okay, is everybody ready? All right. So in just a moment, I'll ask you a question. What it will look like if you've already done this, you'll just say A or B, or you may type in words. I may ask you to type in some words, okay? And our results will come up real time. That's what makes this kind of fun and interactive, all right? All right, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for playing along. This should contribute to our conversation. So in just a moment, so here's your first question. It's going to come up here. Okay, so your first question here is, what do you hope to get out of the session? So you can go ahead and type in a few words to say, what do you hope to get out of the session? Okay. And you see it populates real time. I'm guessing, and so the larger words represent how many times that word is being used. So better teams, better info, better employees, better choices maybe. Awesome. Okay, see how this works? This is a nice little practice one, and it gives us a sense of what you're looking for as well. Okay? It's okay. That's okay. It may be the first time for many people, and that's okay. Okay? Yeah, this helps me validate what you're looking for and make sure I align the conversation to your needs specifically, okay? All right, great. We'll go ahead and move us forward, and we'll continue to do a little bit. So keep your phone nearby, and there'll be additional questions throughout. Okay, so attracting talent. When we talk about attracting talent, these are some of the questions you may be already asking yourself. My little image over here on the right-hand side is a little jar of honey. And why do you think that is? We like to use honey to attract good things, right? You attract more bees with honey, right? Yeah, and so that's the same principle that we're talking about today. When you create a positive experience for people, when you create a positive recruitment experience for candidates, the good talent is more likely willing to connect and stay and engage with you and stay with your company as well. Okay? So these are some of the questions, and I would invite you just to, let's have a conversation about some of these questions. But again, the title was, are you getting what you're looking for? So I pose the question to you, who are you attracting? What kind of talent are you attracting to your company? How are you attracting that talent? How are you finding them? Again, what are their qualifications? What are their values? Are they a good fit for your business? And how are you measuring success in your company? Okay? You guys ready to play along with another question? All right. Here's our next question. It should populate here in just a moment. I'll tell you what the question is while it's loading. The question is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to attracting talent? What is your biggest challenge? And again, you'll go ahead and write some words in, and this will create a word cluster like we saw last time. Yeah, skill and longevity. Great. So for anyone who may have missed the initial instructions, if you'll just send a text message with the code at the top of the screen to 22333, you'll be able to play along and participate in the conversation as well. Okay? All right, we're seeing some more messages coming in. Great. Finding quality talent for seasonal positions. Yeah, that's definitely important in our industry, isn't it? Certainly in certain parts of the world. I spent a little bit of time recently in Malaysia where the season was coming to an end, and everyone was getting ready to go back to their home countries. And certainly it was very evident the challenges that come with that, both for the talent, for the people who are seasonal employees, but also for the businesses that are recruiting that talent. How do you make sure that the talent comes back? The good people that you had that came and performed well with your company and were successful, how do you get them to come back year after year after year, if in fact that's what you're looking for? Okay. Awesome. Performance versus credentials. That's an important one, isn't it? Which one do you think is more important? Performance. Yeah. And there's a saying in my line of work, maybe you've probably heard it, but the best predictor of future performance is what? Past performance, right? If I've seen you consistently repeat it, it's part of our definition of mastery of skills, isn't it? If you can repeat it consistently and fluidly, it's part of mastery, right? Awesome. So the same is true with what we call the soft skills, which are actually the hard skills, aren't they? They're actually the hard skills to do. All right. So we're on the same page. I'm seeing a lot of really great messages here. Team versus me. How do we get that? How do we solve for team versus me? That's part of cultural fit, isn't it? And it's part of how we set up our operating procedures and our onboarding and our team engagements so that we create that culture of team. Absolutely. That's a great conversation. I'd love to have that with you today. So thank you for sharing these challenges. You're in the right place, and we'll talk about some of these. Good match of work ethic and personality. Again, that comes back to those values, right? A lot of these come back to those values. Okay, so you've probably experienced the good and bad impact of hiring decisions, haven't you? That may be why you're here today. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the research shows about the impact of good and bad decisions specific to hiring. So good decisions, what are some of the impact, the outcomes of positive good decisions in hiring decisions? Customer retention. We talked about that earlier, right? What else? I'm sorry? Employee retention. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, employee retention is important. Why? Training is, training, but also investment. Do you know that it's approximately 150% to replace an employee who leaves rather than keeping that employee? So that alone is a business strategy, right? Employee retention as a business strategy is for cost savings. It's more effective. It's more efficient. You begin to build that culture of we, don't you? Okay, so these are some of what the research shows as far as benefits for good decisions in hiring practices. So you reduce turnover, which was said. Enhancing productivity. Why? Because you shorten that learning curve, don't you? You reduce that time to ramp, is what we call it. And you basically, instead of continuing to teach everyone how to open and close and how to run the business on a day-to-day basis, you can teach them that next level of skill set and competencies, can't you? You can get them into that next phase of their own career development. Get them excited about what comes next. What are you preparing for? And that's the conversation we'll actually have at noon in our Developing Your Talent piece. So increasing performance. Again, if you're focused on those higher order skills of career development and expanding competency and expanding knowledge set for your teams, you're going to have increased performance, again, for all the reasons we talked about earlier as well. You're keeping your employees longer. You're keeping your customers as repeat business. You're reducing some of the overhead expenses and costs of hiring and of retraining and going through those practices, right? And then, of course, I'm willing to bet that most of us came into this industry because we want to have a little fun. Yeah? So enriched work is a benefit also. When you're working with a good team, when you have that team of we environment, and you have a positive experience, your employees are having a positive experience, all of our work is enriched by that, and it's fulfilling for everyone. Okay? There's always a downside, right? So if we don't make good hiring decisions, the other side of the table, what are some of the impacts you've seen? What? Safety. Thank you. Absolutely. Safety can be a concern. And why might that happen, especially in our world? Trust is the foundation of any team. Absolutely. Trust is critical. And again, especially in an environment that's potentially hazardous. What else? Decreased business. Yeah. We've probably all, either as a consumer or as a business owner, had that experience where you've gone into a business and said, I will never go back to that business, or I will never buy from that person again, right? Because I had a negative experience. Well, you don't want that negative experience to be had by your customers, right? So how do we help our employees? Number one, by hiring the right people, attracting the right people, and hiring the right people, and then again, creating that culture that you want in your business. Okay, so these are some of what the research shows. Bad hiring decisions reduce team morale. Again, trust gets eroded when there's favoritism or when there's trust. What erodes trust in your experience? Poor communication. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What else? Favoritism. Yeah. Yeah, lots of things can erode trust. And it takes a long time to build trust, potentially, but it takes an instant to break it, doesn't it? All right, so if we're making good hiring practices and we're bringing people on board with the right values and the right energy and the right experience, and we're rewarding the right behaviors, So I have a saying that I learned when we were measuring. I was working at Intel at the time, and we were talking about employee engagement, and we were getting ready to measure the global employee engagement across 100,000 employees. And we were looking for what are the big impact triggers, the big levers where all boats rise, right? We rise sea level. We want to have positive impact on everything. So again, team morale is one of the biggest indicators of employee engagement. Okay, increased costs we talked about briefly. We talked about lost customers, but what about tarnishing an image? How can hiring practices, making a poor hire, for example, making a bad hiring decision, how can that tarnish your brand? They're representing your company. Absolutely. It's their first experience. Maybe the website, maybe the signage outside, and then their first human contact. If that's not a positive experience, okay, that's one strike, right? And depending on the depth, it cascades. It begins to grow and build on itself, doesn't it? And so wouldn't you want to put the best people in front of your customers, right? So again, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you, what does that look like for you? What does best look like in your environment? Okay. All right, so again, this is in your handout as well. You'll have this information, but we'll use this in our conversation too. Okay, so we have another poll. So here's where I said I would ask you this question later. Here it is. What kind of talent are you currently attracting? What are you getting? And again, you can type the words in. And you can put in as many words as you like, individually. Awesome. We have some superstars. Goofballs.
Can you only do it once?
No, keep going. Keep going. You can add as many words as you want. There's no limit on this one. Millennials. We're going to talk about that. Is that your target? Maybe it is. We'll talk about millennials. Greatness. Awesome. Fit. Okay. Some distracted people, enthusiastic. You get the full range, right, is what I'm really seeing here. You're getting the full range. And across our industry, there's a full range, right? Now, I'm curious, inexperienced. Wow. Yeah, that's almost always universally what I hear. And is that okay? Sometimes it is. It depends on the role, too, right? It depends on what you're hiring for. But in some of the roles, is it more important to have that customer-facing behavior and attitude and mindset, and we train skills? Or is it important and critical? In certain roles, it's absolutely critical to have a specific skill set, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Short. I'm not sure what short represents. Maybe it was a qualifier to another word. Short term. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and again, maybe that's because of the seasonal nature of your work or of your market. Or maybe it's how we're structuring the roles a little bit. And so we can talk about that from a development perspective too. How do we keep those people coming back year after year, if that's in fact what your goal is, right? And it's going to be different. If I asked everybody in this room, your goals, your business strategy is going to be different, right? All right. Okay, multiple generations, I'm guessing. Mixed bag, interesting. Passionate, yeah. So let's harness that passion, right? Let's tap into that passion. Let's keep people engaged and keep people interested. Short timers, thank you. All right. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of people think, this isn't for me, that's for me. So they bring switch
Yeah, the comment is a lot of people are coming in as new professionals in the dive industry as second careers. Absolutely. I can say that was true for me. That was true for me, right? And that's true for a lot of people. We leave a former, corporate or other type of environment career. I know a lot of instructors that are former law enforcement, former military veterans, former firefighters, other types of industries, and they come to scuba diving for a change of pace, for one, a change of environment, and because they love it, right? Absolutely. So let's harness that, and let's leverage that. And let's keep that fire lit, right? We want to keep that fire lit. Okay, so thank you for participating in that. Let's continue on a little bit. We talked a little bit about cultural fit earlier and why cultural fit matters. And we talked a little bit about trust. Right? What else? Why else does cultural fit matter to your business? Shared values. That's probably the number one reason it matters. Yeah. Do they believe in the same things we believe in? Right? Are we on the same page? Do we believe in the same core values? Do we have the same work ethic? Right? That's not when you train easily. Right? So when I'm talking about values, it's some of those things. Do we believe in the same things? Do we have the same beliefs about how we work? Not process. I'm not talking process. I'm talking belief systems, right? And how do you find out about that in your recruiting process? How do you understand that? Does anyone ask? Yeah. It's an awkward question maybe in your interview, but just conversation with a candidate. From your initial contact with the candidate, or does anyone have kind of your core values and beliefs in your About Us on your webpage? Or is that reflected somewhere? Some of the data, and you'll see the millennial data in just a minute, but some of the data really shows that the first experience people have with you, in our industry, maybe it's, I took an open water dive class. That might be it. But in a lot of cases, it's your website. And if you're posting jobs on the pro scuba diving, you're looking for pros, and you're posting on those pro job boards, they're going to go to your website first. So what are you showing them about who you are and how you run your business and how I can be part of this team, even from that touch point? Okay? All right, so these are so I'm curious, what do you look for when you're looking to determine whether somebody is a cultural fit for your business? What are you looking for? We talked about values. What else? Teamwork. And again, how do you measure that in an interview? Life experience. Absolutely. And how might life experience add to a candidate's qualifications? Customer interaction. Okay. Maybe they haven't done this job specifically, but they've done it in an adjacent field. They've done it somewhere else. If you have somebody who has delivered Nordstrom quality service over here in another industry or in another field, isn't that the kind of service you want to give to your customers? Yeah, absolutely. It translates, doesn't it? Okay, great. Anything else? Any other burning, pressing things you look for? This is what some of the research again shows. When you look for that achievement, the same level of achievement orientation and focus, again, it's kind of that work ethic. Do we work the same way? Motivated by challenge, interested in learning, right? Absolutely. I can tell you as a coach, we have there's actually a little assessment we apply when you're first starting a coaching engagement, It's a coachability measure. Is this person open to feedback and willing to learn? You can apply that same practice or that same principle in your qualifications when you're hiring someone. Maybe it's a filter you use. Yes, sir. It's an objective measure, or a subjective measure, I should say. It's a series of questions we ask, actually. It's an interview protocol. And it's based on anecdotal information. Yeah. There are measures, scientific measures, psychometric indicators.
Are they available?
Sure, I can share that with you. Yeah. I'll give you my contact information at the end, okay? Yeah, and I'm happy to have that conversation with you offline as well. Yeah, how do you look for that? That's a great question. Okay, values in working in teams we talked about, treat others as equals, and passionate about diving. Absolutely, you gotta have that passion. And many of you said you're already attracting that. That's why people get interested in the first place, right? In making that shift into working with your business. Awesome. Some of the red flags, what are the red flags for you? Negativity, what does that look like? Number one indicator is bad-mouthing a previous employer. Absolutely. Okay. Short stays at previous jobs was the comment. I paused because we were just talking about seasonal employment as well. So if you see that on a resume or in a conversation or an application, you can certainly inquire about that, press into the conversation, press into the interview on that. Is it because of a seasonal nature? Right? When you interview, what kinds of questions are you asking? Prior experience? Okay. What other questions are you asking?
We looked as well, just because of the type of business we have, we looked at your qualifications if you're in a drug consortium
Okay.
in Florida. So that's one of the first assumptions we look at is the state's qualifications that they must have, and then start going from there.
So certain qualifications, are you part of a certain consortium? Other requirements that may be local, legal, state, federal, regulatory requirements. Do you believe in our product? Is that right? Yeah, absolutely. What is your previous experience? What do you know about our product? Yeah, absolutely. What else? Why are you here and what are your plans? Yeah. Again, we'll talk about that in the development. You are here, right? The big red dot. Where are you going? Where do you want to go? How do we work together in getting you there, right? Just doing a time check. Okay. All right, any other red flags you have when you're interviewing? Availability? Okay. Yeah. Are you flexible in your schedule? Is that... Yeah. What do you think the job is? Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of open-ended questions, and that's good. What that does when you ask those open-ended who or how, what, kind of where, those open-ended questions, you leave the space for them to provide more information for you than just yes or no. Okay. So you may already know that and be doing that. I encourage you to do that intentionally. Okay. Those open-ended questions. Okay, availability was one red flag. What are other red flags that somebody doesn't fit your environment? The way they look when they come in? Okay, can you be more specific? Okay. So what she's saying is when someone comes in, do they look like they fit with the rest of the people in the store? Is that fair? Okay. And again, you're talking about this person could be the first point of contact. They are part of your brand. Okay? Was there another comment? Yeah?
We're also putting us a lot of communication because of all what we're doing. They have to be able to communicate to our guests. So if they can't even communicate to me when they come in, it's kind of a no-go.
Yeah. Okay. So communication, and specifically when you're coming in, and are they sharing with you the kind of information you're looking for, that sort of thing. And her comment was, if they can't convey to the customer what we're asking them to communicate, it's kind of a no-go. Yeah, that's a critical skill in our environment, isn't it? We're hiring and training influencers, aren't we? Yeah, we're wanting them to influence, again, create an experience for your customers and influence that decision making. And expand it. Okay, so these are some of the red flags that we have identified in the research. Disliking the ever-changing environment. Yeah, in scuba diving, in our businesses, that ever-changing environment is important, isn't it? A little bit of flexibility, adaptability. Yeah, do you see this? And there are people that are out there that are coming in and wanting to work with us that are inflexible and aren't willing to adapt their schedule or their life or their appearance or whatever it might be to work with you and to work in our industry and work with your customers. Okay, uncomfortable making decisions. Yeah, do you want people who have to come and run and check with you every time a decision needs to be made? Part of that is how we empower our employees and how we train them so that they know what is and isn't okay. But then we say, go for it, I trust you, up to this point. If it's this or this or this, then come check with me. But anything else, I trust you to make that customer's experience one that's satisfying, one that's fulfilling, meet their needs, get it done, right? Get the job done. Okay, consistently working alone. Gosh, we work in a team environment, don't we? That's just really not acceptable in our industry. I can't think of, maybe there's one job in a dive shop, as an example, that might be primarily working alone. And I think of like a service tech, right? But even then, there's some communication that has to happen. We need to all have the same experience. We need to know that we're all on the same team. Going back to that team versus individual mindset, right? Okay, good. And that arrogant or defensive. And this might have been what was said earlier as well, that negative behavior. Negativity is one of the most toxic and contagious influences there is, right? And it's one of the quickest ways to erode trust on a team. You have one, the old saying, right? One bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Yeah. So just let's not recognize that negativity and not allow it in, right? Okay. Okay, here's time for another poll. Grab your device. Okay, so keep that coming. Let's see if it comes up. So I'll share that back with you, okay? But let's move on, and I'll share with you the recruiting practices. And some of these were up here, and you may have seen these in the voting. But so 10 of the recruitment strategies. These are really creative ideas. Some of these you may already be doing, but this was a recent, when I was preparing for the presentation, I actually came across this article on Career Muse. It's a blog that provides information about different recruiting strategies and career strategies in general. But this article was timely, and I thought it was interesting, and there were some creative ways. So organizing an open house event. Some of you are doing this? Any kind of open house event? Well, maybe. The question was for employment. How might you use some of the events you already have scheduled in your dive club or your other business plans? How can you integrate those and create those so that it draws people who are interested in working with you? Or, let them come learn more about what it's like to be part of your team. Okay. Do you have some of those events already on your calendar that you can leverage? Okay. Arranging an interactive session. This is similar But it makes me think of more like an intern experience, a short experience where somebody can come on board for a week or 2 weeks, or come kind of do a shadow experience working with people in your shop or working with people in your business, whatever that might be. Specifically the roles that you're looking to hire. Okay? Targeting passive candidates. What do you think passive candidates are? Yeah. I haven't come to you and said, I'm looking for a job, but I might be open, right? I know that you're an excellent customer service person, and I know you're really happy in your job that you already have. But man, I'd love to, when you get ready to make a transition, let's have a conversation. Would you be interested in working with the team here? We could really use your skills. Right? That's this considering passive candidates. Who are those people that maybe aren't applying for jobs, but man, you'd like to have them on your team? Looking for talent in unlikely places. Where are some unlikely places that we can consider for people who would be good team members for your business? What are some other similar businesses? Hotels, hospitality industry, absolutely. Service oriented, right? Creating that same customer experience. What else? I'm sorry? Swim clubs. Yeah, swim clubs. Sure, similar activity. Anyone in kind of outdoor activity space, right? Could be, certainly. What about other retail stores, businesses? What about other customer service businesses? I love the hospitality. Yeah, lots of adjacent businesses that could be crossovers, right? Do they have the knowledge and background in diving? Maybe not yet. But man, if they have the customer service and they have the values and the work ethic that you're looking for and the availability and the willingness, we can teach you to dive. We're good at that, right? We can teach you the other stuff. Okay, attending events other than job fairs. I know that when business leaders get focused on, okay, I need to focus on this challenge, right? We sometimes get a little bit myopic. We look at just that part of the problem. We don't look at the broad spectrum of what are other events, activities, conversations, relationships that I can leverage to help me solve this business problem. Okay? So what are those other types of events and activities? I know people who use DEMA for recruiting, right? And it's a great forum for it. What are those other activities that you're already doing or could intentionally do? All right, standing out in non-traditional media. So we talked a little bit about some of the things you're already doing to recruit people and to attract talent. What are those non-traditional media? So we talked about the forum, some of the pro forums and things like that, job listing boards. What are some of the other places you're posting those jobs? Yeah. So what, if I'm hearing this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, the question is, how do you target those people who may be seasonal in a different part of the country or different part of the world even, so that when their season there, wherever there is ending, they're interested and ready and willing to come work for us? Yeah? Yeah. Are any others doing that already? Are some of you doing that, targeting people in other locations? I'm looking in this general direction for a reason. Okay. So it's more word of mouth for you. Okay. These are my friends from Hawaii. So thank you for that. Yeah. So, and again, this goes back to adjacent businesses, right? So skiing is an industry that has a season, right? Or working in Alaska has a season.
Manatees of the season.
Yeah. So the key is to find for your business, what is that, I think of like, do you remember film? I remember film. The negatives, right? What is the opposite season where you can partner with an agency or an industry or a location specifically and create a job swap? Collaborate, exactly. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. So again, partnering, make it known that, hey, we're looking for really good talent in these areas. Do you know how to XYZ? You know, have good relationships with people, customer service, maybe it's hospitality, reaching out to those. Some of the non-traditional or other than job fairs, those attended events other than job fairs. I think it was 2 years ago, DEMA was announcing that they were very involved in trade shows beyond just diving, right? So that's a great market too, right? If those are happening in those other locations that you know about, that's a great way to reach out, okay? So I want to be mindful of time and touch on a little bit of this and get you the rest of the information without shortchanging the dialogue. This has been a good conversation. I hope you're taking some good things away. Okay, the other ideas we've talked, I know you've heard lots about social media. I won't get into that. That's really not the point of our conversation. Consider advertising in unlikely places. We talked a little bit about that already. And considering past candidates, right? Maybe you didn't hire them that season because you only had 3 slots open, but they were the next 4th candidate you would have hired. What if you went back to them? Go back to those seasonal employees that weren't available last year, but maybe they are again. Okay, so going back into that candidate database and see who were those good people that, maybe it wasn't right then, but it could be right now. Okay? All right. Here's your bit on millennials I wanted to share with you. And this information is in the deck, the handouts that you have access to online. But what was interesting as I was looking at the data, you have the population of the millennials, 92 million people, and this was data of 2015. So that number has grown, right? This is your future workforce. I don't need to beat this into you. You guys know this, right? All right, but what's interesting about this population is what matters to them as employees and what attracts them, okay? So 41% of baby boomers say that they will work at the same place for a good portion of their life, unless they do a career change and come to scuba diving, right? But only 13% of millennials intend to stay at the same job for their whole career. In fact, the data shows they will probably have at least 5 career changes. And that's conservative. What they're looking for as they're looking for a job: stability, financial security, and collaboration. So remember all of those things we were talking about in cultural fit and team and trust? Your millennials are looking for the same thing. So if you highlight those things when you're trying to appeal to them, again, this is going to reinforce that coming to work with you, or at least considering working with you, could be a good match. Okay? The things that matter to them. If you're looking to attract your millennials and convince them that they should take a job offer from you, this is what's going to matter to them. Compensation matters, but not as much as the other two. Okay? I need to let you guys go, don't I? All right. So these are the things that I want you to definitely be aware of. These are the things that drive talent away. If you're doing these in your recruiting practices, radio silence means not getting back to people. Great, thank you for the application. It goes into a black hole. They never hear from you again. That's going to be a big turnoff, right? I think we believe the same to be true. Yes, sir. Okay. if you want to talk about this further, I'm happy to do so. We're out of time here. There's also a tool in your deck that you can use to begin thinking about evaluating your current strategy. And there are some additional resources for looking at the 7 keys of unlocking talent. And if you'd like to talk to me more about this later, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. Okay? So on your DEMA app, there's an invitation to complete an evaluation. I invite you and encourage you to do that. Let us know your feedback. And thank you for being here.